Oh. What's up, everybody? I'm Rob Workman, and over here is Mr. Macasieb. You know, the Macasieb Blogs and all that. We'll be doing things a little bit differently. Instead of a rant, this is going to be a debate. I will be defending the great Dark Knight trilogy, directed by Christopher Nolan, and Mr. Macasieb here will be defending
Lord of the Rings, directed by Peter Jackson.
Alright, now, Matt, get in this shit right here. We gotta see you a little bit. Come here. Okay, I guess I'll start off. Oh, here we go. I guess I'll start first saying director Christopher Nolan brought back Batman from the dead, first of all. He reinvented it, totally different. Made it realistic, believable, relatable, took away the bat nipples, and most of all, he made heart into it. He made you like this. Wait, we can actually do this. You just gotta have money, obviously, but it's like, wait, this guy's really relatable. Bruce Wayne has emotion. We get to see everything, the whole psychology from Batman Begins and all the way to the conclusion to The Dark Knight Rises. Not only, Dark Knight Rises has an awesome soundtrack from Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. Also, great writer David S. Goyer, his Christopher Nolan's brother, Jonathan Nolan, and just producer Emma Thomas. They just did it right. The cinematography is beautiful. Everything about the Dark Knight trilogy is amazing. Now, Matt, your overall view for it. Now, get in the camera and shit.
Well, Lord of the Rings came out in 2001. It was directed by Peter Jackson. And no one really read the books back then. So Peter Jackson pretty much brought it back, pretty much showed everyone how great Lord of the Rings was. And it pretty much defined an entire generation of one's childhood. To this day, even after a decade after its release, people still bring it up, and it's still coming back even with its prequel series, The Hobbit. It's like Lord of the Rings 3 is number 5 on the top most biggest box office hit ever.
Okay. He brings up good points, because I will give him that. Lord of the Rings is always talked about, probably will always be talked about, but just because how beautiful the movie was. Dark Knight trilogy, though, also people still talk about to this day. People still mention Batman Begins. That came out in 2005. That movie was so underrated. Only bringing in $48 million opening weekend, but people still talk about it. It's like, wait, oh my god, Batman Begins? Yeah, remember that movie. People talk about that day. Then The Dark Knight came out. Shattering records. So many left and right. Heath Ledger, God bless him. I'm not the biggest fan of the Joker, but he did an awesome job. But also, The Dark Knight, totally. Dark Knight was probably one of the most believable movies out of all of them because it's like really realistic. The story was great and everything. Now, The Dark Knight Rises, the conclusion, like Lord of the Rings. The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, unlike Lord of the Rings, both made $1 billion in the box office. Shattered records left and right. You know what Dark Knight Rises did? Shattered the IMAX. Fucking IMAX records. Make first movie bringing $100 million in the box office for IMAX. What? And don't forget. Okay, you know what? Matt, you're first.
Well, that's a good point. Even though Lord of the Rings came out like what, 2 years before the first Batman movie came out.
Yeah, 2001. Dark Knight, Batman Begins came out in 2005. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
and
like
Lord of the Rings 1 came out in 2001. Lord of the Rings 2 came out in 2002, and Lord of the Rings came out in 2003. So I give you that. That clearly Dark Knight is pretty much another great trilogy ahead, but Lord of the Rings is pretty much one of those classic trilogies that I will never forget about. I mean, it's like Back to the Future or the original Star Wars. But it's just like one of those movies, so like they made much more than The Dark Knight. However, it's still more memorable. I mean, Batman's Batman. I mean, of course, who the fuck doesn't know Batman? If you don't know what Batman is, and you're living in a fucking closet or something. But Lord of the Rings was one of those series where like no one really read the book when it came out, but then when Peter Jackson pretty much brought the whole world to life in his movies, I have to say it was pretty damn impressive. And the fact that the whole Shire was filmed in New Zealand, I thought that was pretty cool. In fact, they gave, just because of that, New Zealand's got like millions more dollars in tourism because of that.
Yep, I can agree. Yeah, I agree.
And people even recreate saying Mordor, the actual Mordor, was filmed like a few miles away from the actual Shire in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So people actually went to New Zealand and walked all the way over there to see how long it would take them to deliver the ring.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how memorable that movie was. People make a fake journey. Basically, recreate the whole movie for themselves.
Okay.
Does Batman do that? Maybe
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, now let's do this. Now I'm getting into it. Here we go. Now, like he said, Lord of the Rings spans all over the world, New Zealand. Batman Begins. Okay, it takes place in the Himalayas, somewhat the Philippines, goes back to Chicago. Then half of Gotham City was filmed in a warehouse, and it looks so believable. Now let's talk about The Dark Knight. Tokyo, what was it, Tokyo?
China.
No, China. No, it was Japan. It was Japan, then it goes back to Chicago. Then The Dark Knight Rises, India, Scotland for the prologue, and it goes back, instead of Gotham, Pittsburgh. Like the Lord of the Rings, the Dark Knight trilogy spouted all around the world. Christopher Nolan did it right by doing that. So instead of Batman being in Gotham City, let's show him actually travel around the world so we can complete his journey and see him transcend into this phenomenal superhero that is known as a legend. A legend. And like he said, people go to New Zealand to complete the whole journey. People cosplay as Batman and all the new enemies now because it's just so realism and people live for that kind of shit. And now, forget about that. Now let's talk about the soundtrack and themes. Now, the Dark Knight trilogy has a variety of interesting themes. Each villain has their own theme, and each soundtrack, though, is around Bruce Wayne for his themes. Because you got like that's Batman's theme. Then you have someone of Bruce Wayne's theme, which transcends into Batman's theme. Like in Dark Knight Rises, when you pierce on the bar, in the bat part, you hear dun dun dun. Now, like he has his own theme. Now, Lord of the Rings is only good for one theme. That dun 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 dun. Like it's that one theme. But listen to Batman, so many different themes for so many villains. And Bruce Wayne and Batman have their own theme for each movie. Then it comes full circle in The Dark Knight Rises, in that last track titled Rise, number 15 in the Dark Knight Rises soundtrack. Matthew.
Now, the soundtrack for Dark Knight Rises, sure, you might know every single song about it. But the thing about what makes Lord of the Rings so special is that Lord of the Rings was littered. It had its own fucking orchestra for its music. Now, the reason you don't really remember the songs that well is because you're so caught up in the movies, the atmosphere, everything about it, that you forget there's even a soundtrack. You think it's a part of the movie without even there being a soundtrack, but it's there. It's so perfectly fitted in that you don't even realize it's there. It feels like it's a part of it. It's like your own left hand.
Yeah.
That's how recognizable it is. And sure, Dark Knight Rises has traveled around the world more often. Yes, true. That is true. But Lord of the Rings has done that a lot. The same amount, right? The same amount. And people do cosplay as them too.
Yeah.
It's just that, and you've been in Philly. People do jack shit here. Right? Yeah, so he understands.
Okay, well, as you say, Lord of the Rings had its orchestra, right? But Dark Knight Trilogy had two people, Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. Two people to make this moody, beautiful generation trilogy soundtrack for this one man and his journey to transcend from orphan to regular guy to Batman to it's like this: begins, falls, rises. Nothing has a better tagline than that. Batman begins, you see him begin. Dark Knight, he falls, the Joker fucks off. Then he has to rise, and the Dark Knight rises. Bang, he rises. He fights that. Then you see it all transcend, climbing out of the pit. It all comes full circle. Does Lord of the Rings come full circle completely? Not entirely. Because in The Dark Knight Rises, you see Bruce Wayne's father for just a little bit saying, why do we fall? What has a better quote than that? Lord of the Rings doesn't have a quote like that, because why do we fall? It's so relatable. In so many situations in life, it's like, wow, because you can ask it's just so relatable. That quote has meaning in so many different ways. It's ridiculous. Does Lord of the Rings have a quote like that? I don't think so! Your turn, Matthew.
Okay. Well, the reason Dark Knight Rises... Okay, yeah, the Dark Knight trilogy is more relatable, but that's based on real life. Lord of the Rings is a fantasy book, fantasy series. It's not supposed to be relatable to anybody. The only thing that's relatable about it is the struggle that Frodo goes through carrying this ring. Carrying the ring is basically carrying a demon inside of you. It constantly wants you to do the wrong thing, and you have to fight against it. And you have a perfect example of what happens if he gets up to the ring. Gollum. The struggle that Frodo goes through, the entire movie, not just him, everybody goes through an immense struggle. They lose so many people. A lot of people die in there. Men get slaughtered like animals. But Bruce Wayne doesn't go through a struggle. The loss of his parents continues to haunt him day in and day out. The loss of his true love, Rachel, haunts him. The lasting effects of the Joker, Ra's al Ghul, everything. Then Bane comes in, throws him in this hellish pit so he can watch the city he died to protect burn. Dude, you're telling me that's not a struggle? Bruce went into hibernation for 8 years because he couldn't cope with the fact what happened. He had the city brand him an enemy so the city can live in peaceful
peace. You tell me that's not a struggle? Bruce Wayne is so relatable in so many ways. And he has this guy at Alfred trying to help him. And Bruce Wayne just doesn't get the fact, and he gets it. When it's too late, my brain breaks the shit out of his back. You tell me that's not relatable? We don't need a fucking ring and object to prove that Bruce Wayne actually has an emotional struggle with things that actually happen. Because not some fucking ring, motherfucker! Not no ring!
Well, I never said that we're not really that relatable. I'm saying it is more relatable. You forgot that. I said it is more relatable.
The Dark Knight trilogy is more relatable than Lord of the Rings, sir.
I just said that.
No, I said that.
I said it first.
That's not the point here. Okay, Lord of the Rings. Hey, let's have CGI everywhere and make it look so awesome. But yet, everybody credited Dark Knight trilogy. This Lord of the Rings CGI everywhere. Dark Knight trilogy. Very little CGI, but yet it was amazing. The Dark Knight Rises, that whole ride. Where was any CGI? No, there's all people going at it. No. That's why Peter Jackson needs CGI to make his movies awesome and stuff. Christopher Nolan? No, he doesn't really need CGI. Inception has nothing to do with this conversation, but that whole Dream Zero Gravity fight, they actually made something like that. So instead of using CGI, you don't need CGI to make a good movie. You don't.
Okay, well, Christopher Nolan makes movies that are based that can actually be pulled off without CGI, right? How many fucking things did you see in Lord of the Rings? Can you imagine how problematic that would be to have that many fucking people?
I never said that. You say CGI gets boring once in a while. This isn't the Avengers.
Well, yeah, but it's a fantasy. It's a fantasy movie. Of course, it's gonna be CGI. You would expect there to be a giant fucking walking tree that talks to you, or a giant troll, or a shitload of orcs that run towards you with torches? No. It's a fucking fantasy movie.
Okay, we got 2 minutes. We gotta go at it now. We just gotta go at it. Everything we have to say about the trilogies have to go at it right now. Alright, you ready?
Alright.
You ready? Let's do it. Christopher Nolan brought back Batman from the dead. Resurrected. Dark Knight trilogy will be always standing as the greatest superhero trilogy, probably the superhero movies ever. He reinvented the whole world superhero in movies, in cinema. The records he shattered. One man did this. One man. Your turn.
Peter Jackson brought back probably one of the most best book series next to Harry Potter that ever were made, and brought it back and showed that everybody how beautiful this world is, and pretty much defined a generation of people, right?
Yeah.
People to this day still love watching those movies because they're just so memorable and they're so relatable, even though it's CGI, right?
Okay, Dark Knight trilogy, also relatable, and it has that deep emotional feel without the whole fantasy aspect. That's why it's so relatable. It's related to people like us, which could happen in this world. I don't see any trees coming out of bullshit. Sir, hey, you look like hobbits. I don't see that shit. A man like the Joker can actually happen. And Batman's like, ah! It's just so amazing. Don't forget the humor the Dark Knight trilogy has that good, dry, crude humor, which gives audience that good laugh. Oh, God, your turn.
Lord of the Rings is one of the best fantasy books and movies ever made. They're still making another series, The Hobbit. So clearly, people still love the series. It's going to be remembered for the whole rest of your life. You keep forgetting. Sure, Dark Knight Rises, the Dark Knight trilogy is really good. It's based on reality.
That's why it's so relatable and is better, because it's relatable. People like relatable stuff. You don't like stuff that you can't really do. And don't forget, Dark Knight Rises has that awesome Disney boss rock chant, which is amazing, which means rise up, which goes in sync with the Dark Knight Rises. They made a chant. They got the fans to do the chant. So, you're telling me Christopher Nolan doesn't do fan service? Look at all that fan service he did! Highest ever!
Okay. Well, of course, Peter Jackson did fan service.
And don't forget, Dark Knight has a different variety of enemies, not one eye that sits there looking at you, burning you, so each enemy has a different mode of, instead of, oh, let's get this ring to Mount Doom. It doesn't take that long to get somewhere!
Okay. Well, here's the thing about the Dark Knight series. First one happened it happened in that timeline. The second one, how long ago was the first and second one from each other?
About 6 months.
About 6 months. And
6 months to 12 months, about a year around there.
It was basically about a year after the first movie. And then the third movie was about 8 years. So basically, you really didn't know, besides the Joker card, you didn't know what the hell was going to happen in the third movie. In Lord of the Rings, you know what's going to happen. They're continuing their journey to get this ring to Mordor. But for Dark Knight, you're like, okay, well, they got done this movie. What's going to happen next? Well, I don't know. Not really, so I have to wait. Next movie? Oh, okay, now I know what's going to happen. Or like, now I really don't know what's going to happen again. Lord of the Rings? I know what's going to happen. Not exactly, but I know what's going to happen. They're going to keep continuing the journey.
You know what's going to happen, but that's why Dark Knight Trilogy is so good. You don't know what's going to happen. It keeps you in suspense. People like suspense. People like guessing, speculating. That's why it's so good. People are so speculating about The Dark Knight Rises. Why? How did he survive? The more you speculate, the more you speculate about it, the more you think about it, the more the movie grows and grows and grows. Like, wow. A movie like that has me still thinking about it. Same thing with Inception. Christopher Nolan does it right. Speculating, because people keep thinking about his movies and all that, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to be like, oh my god, what's going to happen? You're like, wait, that could happen. Make that Joker card. Perfect way to end it. Good cliffhanger, because if you get it, the Joker's going to be there. Then a Dark Knight, another good ending. He just drives off in the back part, like, what's going to happen? Because after all this happening, now he's an enemy? What's going to happen? And it's 8 years later, based off No Man's Land. It's happening, man! You people like that whole speculating, guessing thing. It keeps the movie going. Interesting. You want to know. You want to see the next one. You just want to off for the battle for Middle Earth is about to begin. It just cuts off. It's like, what?
Well, the same thing, exactly. But the Lord of the Rings, sort of, it happens one after another. But what people love is just seeing that next big fight. That's what people love. And this the big fight. The continuing journey to get that ring to Mordor, it's just all great. And plus, there's so many different relatable characters in that movie series.
No, I'll give
I mean, the dwarf, the elf, Aragorn, Gandalf. Oh my god! I mean, to this day, people still imitate them. They're just so relatable, so lovable. I mean, the Dark Knight, the guy by a handful of people.
Okay, that's all you need. You tell me you don't got relatable people? John Blake. He's like all three Roberts combined. Relatable. Bruce Wayne. Definitely relatable. Selena Connor with a whole spunky attitude. Relatable. Alfred. He's us in the movie. Definitely relatable. Morgan Freeman. Another voice of reason. Relatable. The Joker. Not really relatable. Bane. Relatable. Probably one of the most relatable villains in there because he has that human aspect, which makes him one of the best villains of the 2012 movie season. Ra's al Ghul, another relatable villain. Here's the thing about Lord of the Rings. They really don't have really main villains. People like different main villains. So that means different battles, different fights, and different outcomes. People like that. Like, people want that next big... People want to see Batman and Bane go at it for the first time. Break his back. That was a big fight. People loved it. Then, you see Batman and Bane go at it again. Another big fight. Who's calling me? Stop! Come!
Okay, well, here's the thing. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, right? They played it.
John Blake, yeah.
Yeah, John Blake and the Catwoman. They were only in the last movie. Okay, so you only have one movie to to know them, right? Joker, he was only in the second movie, and I'll give you that. God bless his soul, he died. He could have been in the third movie. But but everyone I mentioned in Lord of the Rings, you see them from the beginning of the movie, so you get to enjoy and relate and just appreciate these people from the very beginning. Plus, it's kind of cool in The Hobbit. You get to see some people from the original series in that series, like Legolas is in the next Hobbit movie. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, I memean, sure you got relatable characters on both sides, but like Dark Knight, 2 of them were into the last movie, and the one was.
But here's the thing, though: how many characters can you have? If you think about Lord of the Rings, really focuses on Frodo, Sam, and Aragorn. They and Gollum. Them 4 are probably the most relatable characters. It's like, yes, what struggle does he go through?
It's not a struggle.
But what struggle does he go through? Like Aragorn, he has this whole... He's the chosen one.
Well, it's not about struggle. It's about...
It's a struggle to cope inside. It's like, does he really want to do this? That's why. There's just so many people, like, who can I relate to? At least Bruce Wayne, you can relate to him. Some people can, some people can't.
No.
Because of what he went through. Not done talking, sir! Not done! Alright? I'm talking about one of the greatest trilogies made by Christopher Nolan, Mr. Nolan himself, Dark Knight Trilogy, Batman Begins, 85%, Dark Knight, 94%, Dark Knight Rises, 87%! Movies! Those 3 movies has probably made over $3 billion worldwide, Lord of the Rings. I don't see that shit. I really don't. Don't forget the Academy Awards. Well, I'll give Lord of the Rings that. But don't forget the Academy Awards. Don't forget it!
You keep thinking that every character that you have to like has to go through a struggle. They don't. People just love the way the characters are.
Then the character can't be relatable if they go through some type of struggle. You can't just have a character who's funny saying blah 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 blah.
Yeah, you can.
No. That is not relatable. Yes, but you want some character who goes some type of emotional or outer exterior struggle, so you're like, oh wait, I've been through something like that.
Yeah,
you can't just have a character who's full blown funny. Then it's not as much as relatable. Cause fuck you! Alright! You're aggravating me! I'm done! That trilogy was you motherfucker! I'm fucking...
He's a big baby.
What? Come here! I'm not done! It's a Dark Knight trilogy, motherfuckers! We'll continue this next time! Next time! Master Chief versus